The morning air hangs heavy, soaked in the quiet hum of regret. A cracked window leaks in pale light over a cluttered table of unpaid bills and cold coffee. Somewhere, a child's voice breaks the silence, soft, hopeful, asking questions the world never answered. The man doesn't respond. He just stares at the floor, searching for a reason not to try. Life, he tells himself, never gave him a fair chance. Every scar, every empty promise, someone else's fault. Yet deep down, he knows that every excuse he's spoken has become another chain, binding him to a life that never moves. Outside, the city wakes, indifferent and loud. Inside, he hides behind words like someday and if only, but destiny doesn't knock twice. Today, when the knock comes, it's not opportunity, it's confrontation. The knock grows louder, steady, certain. He hesitates, unsure whether to answer or hide. When the door finally creaks open, the world shifts. A presence stands there, calm but unyielding. Her voice carries warmth, but her eyes hold truth sharper than judgment. She doesn't need to ask, she already knows. Words pass between them like stones across still water, each one breaking the silence he's built around his failure. She speaks of time wasted, of roads still open, of faith not lost but buried. He deflects, hides behind excuses that sound rehearsed, hollow. But she doesn't argue. She listens, nods once, and leaves behind a single envelope on the table. He stares at it, as if it burns to touch. The silence returns, but now it feels heavier, filled not with comfort, but with shame. For the first time, he wonders if the walls he built were not to keep the world out, but to keep himself trapped in. He sits staring at the envelope for hours, as if it might reveal its truth on its own. The clock ticks, louder than before, every second echoing failure. His son enters quietly, watching him, waiting for a word, any word. None come. The boy sets down a drawing, two figures holding hands beneath a bright sun. He smiles, hoping to spark something. But the man's gaze is fixed, empty. When the boy leaves, a tear slips from his eye. One he refuses to acknowledge. He opens the envelope. Inside, a folded letter and a bus ticket. Second chances don't wait forever. It reads. He crumples it, angry, not at her, but at the truth. The paper falls beside the bills. Somewhere deep inside, a crack begins to form in the wall of excuses he's spent his life building. Night settles like a heavy coat. Rain begins to fall against the window pane, each drop a reminder of time slipping away. He can't sleep. The letter's words haunt him. Second chances don't wait forever. He stands by the window, staring at the city lights flickering through rain. He thinks of everything he's blamed, the system, the past, the people who left, and realizes none of them are here now. Only him, only silence. In the reflection, he sees not a victim, but a man who stopped fighting. Shame crawls up his spine, but beneath it, a pulse, faint but alive. He looks toward his sleeping son and whispers an apology that no one hears. Outside, thunder rolls, distant but growing closer, like the truth finally demanding to be faced. Morning comes again, but something's different. The air feels charged, alive. He's still the same man. Same debts, same struggles, but his excuses feel empty now, like worn-out lies. His son wakes to find him dressed and ready, shoes laced, eyes clear. He doesn't have answers, only resolve. When he picks up the crumpled ticket, it feels heavier than paper. It feels like a promise. He takes a deep breath, looks once more at the door, and whispers, No more waiting. The city beyond the threshold hums with noise and light, but this time, he's ready to face it, because the first step out of darkness isn't courage, it's honesty. And for the first time in years, he stops lying to himself. The bus ride hums beneath him, the city stretching into forgotten corners he's never seen. Each turn of the wheel feels like time undoing itself, carrying him towards something he can't name. When he steps off, the air is colder, sharper, like truth itself. She's there, waiting, calm as dawn. She doesn't speak, just watches him approach with eyes that see beyond excuses. He tells her he's ready to change, but she smiles faintly, almost sadly, as if she's heard that promise too many times before. Her voice is gentle but cuts through his defenses. Words don't rebuild what actions destroyed. He flinches, not from anger, but from recognition. In her reflection, he sees the man he became, and the man he still could be. For the first time, the difference between them terrifies him. They walk together through cracked sidewalks lined with withered trees. She tells him stories, not about success, but about pain. How the greatest victories are born from brokenness. He listens, eyes down, afraid of what her words awaken. Every tale sounds like his own life spoken aloud, stripped of excuses. When she stops before an old community center, she turns and asks, "What are you still waiting for?" He has no answer. The truth hits harder than any failure ever could. He's been waiting for permission to believe in himself. Her silence after that question feels heavier than any sermon. It's not condemnation, it's invitation. Inside the center, the smell of dust and hope lingers. He sees men and women rebuilding lives one brick, one lesson at a time. No applause, no cameras, just quiet resilience. Ruth leads him to a mirror on the far wall. "Look," she says, "tell me what you see." He hesitates, then admits he doesn't recognize the man staring back. "Good," she replies. "Now start becoming the one you want to." The words land like thunder, gentle but absolute. He feels something stir inside, something he buried under years of justification. It's not anger, it's hunger, the kind that only truth can feed. He leaves the mirror shaken. Outside, the city noise returns. Cars, shouts, chaos. But his mind is louder. For every excuse he's ever made, a truth rises to counter it. I didn't have help. He remembers those who offered. I didn't have time. He recalls the hours wasted. I couldn't do it. He realizes he never really tried. The weight of honesty presses down, almost unbearable. But beneath it, something new forms. Clarity. Excuses had been armor, not protection. Just barriers. And now, without them, he finally feels naked, but free. That night, he returns home to his son. The boy sits on the floor, doing homework by dim light. No words are needed. The silence feels different now. Alive, full of intent. He kneels, helping him with a math problem, fumbling, but trying. Is clumsy, awkward, but real. The boy smiles, a small, forgiving grin that breaks through years of distance. In that moment, he understands. Redemption doesn't roar, it whispers. Change doesn't happen in a day. It begins the moment you stop pretending tomorrow will fix what you ignore today. He looks at his son and promises, not aloud, but deep within, never again. Morning begins with promise, but ends with collapse. He arrives at the job site early, hands raw from work, heart ready to rebuild. But when the foreman calls him over, the words slice deep. We're cutting back. I'm sorry. Just like that, it's gone. The one step forward arrest. He stands still as the others walk away, laughter echoing like ghosts of the life he never had. The air grows thick with humiliation. He clenches his fists, but anger isn't strength. It's surrender. He tells himself it's not his fault, not this time. But even as he speaks the words, they sound hollow. The echo of Ruth's voice lingers in his mind. Words don't rebuild what actions destroyed. For the first time, he doesn't know whether to fight or fall. By noon, he's back in the apartment. Silence greets him like an old friend. His son runs up, holding a drawing, this time of a house, bright and whole. "Did you work hard today?" the boy asks. The words pierce deeper than pity ever could. He forces a smile, but it fades before it reaches his eyes. He tells him everything's fine, that he's just tired. The lie burns his throat. When the boy leaves the room, he sinks into the couch, burying his face in his hands. The sound that escapes him isn't anger. It's something worse. A breaking for every step he's taken. The world feels determined to push him back, but maybe the world isn't fighting him. Maybe it's testing whether he'll finally fight for himself. Night again. The storm outside mirrors the one inside his chest. Rain beats against the glass as if mocking his will to stand. He grabs his coat, storms out into the night, walking nowhere, just away. From failure, from truth, from himself. His reflection flickers across shop windows and puddles, distorted, fragmented. He passes people laughing, working, surviving, and it enrages him. How they move while he's stuck. He shouts into the darkness, blaming fate, blaming God, blaming everything that breathes. But in the echo, all he hears is himself. The city doesn't answer. The world doesn't care. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. It's never supposed to. You either rise or rot. When he finally stops walking, he finds himself at the edge of the city. An old bridge stretching over black water. The rain slows, replaced by silence so deep it hums. He leans against the railing, breath trembling. In the stillness, the excuses start whispering again. You're not meant for more. You've tried enough. Each one feels like comfort and poison all at once. His mind drifts to his son's face, that small light in the dark. And then Ruth's voice returns, not as judgment but mercy. Excuses are stories fear tells to keep you from your truth. He shuts his eyes, tears mixing with rain. For the first time, he doesn't argue. He just listens. When he returns home at dawn, he's drenched, cold, and hollow, but alive. His son is asleep on the couch, clutching the same drawing of their house. Elias kneels beside him, studying the fragile hope in that paper sun. He whispers, "I'll build it. I swear I'll build it. No excuses, no delays. Just a vow in the quiet morning light." He rises, takes the letter from Ruth, and presses it to his heart. This time, it doesn't feel like a reminder of failure, but a map back to himself. The first light of dawn spills through the window, painting his face with warmth. The breaking point isn't the end. It's the beginning of a man who finally stopped running from the truth. The next morning, the city feels colder, but he's different now. Determination hums beneath exhaustion. He follows the address written at the bottom of Ruth's letter, a construction site outside town. When he arrives, men move like machines. Lifting, hammering, sweating under a blazing sun. No complaints, no chatter, only effort. Among them, one man stands out. Rough hands, dirt-streaked face, eyes steady as stone. The kind of man whose silence speaks louder than speeches. Elias watches him, almost resentful. How can someone endure so much without breaking? The man catches his gaze, nods once, and gets back to work. No pity, no judgment, just motion. And in that quiet exchange, Elias understands. Excuses are noise. Progress is work. Hours pass before Elias dares to pick up a shovel. His hands tremble at first, muscles aching, breath short. But Mason says nothing. just hands him a pair of gloves and keeps working. The rhythm of effort becomes its own sermon. Dig, lift, repeat. No shortcuts, no pity. By noon, Elias' shirt clings to his skin, his palms blistered and bleeding. Yet for the first time, he doesn't stop. There's pain, but beneath it, peace. The kind that comes when excuses finally die. Mason looks over, nods approvingly. "You're still standing," he says simply. Elias doesn't answer. He just smiles through the sweat. By evening, exhaustion has become a companion, not an enemy. As the others leave, Elias sits on a pile of bricks, watching the sky burn orange over the horizon. Mason joins him, wiping sweat from his brow. "Hard day," he says. "Good day." Elias nods, too tired to speak. Mason glances at his blistered hands. "Pain's proof you showed up," he adds, quiet but firm. Elias studies his own hands, scarred yet alive, and feels something shift inside. Self-respect. Not borrowed, not begged for. Earned. As the last light fades, he realizes the truth Ruth was pointing to all along. Faith without effort is just hope disguised as waiting. The next day, Elias wakes before dawn. He's sore, every muscle aching, but something inside him burns stronger than pain. His son watches as he laces his boots, eyes wide with curiosity. Going back, Elias smiles softly. Every day until it's done. No speeches, no explanations, just consistency. At the site, Mason greets him with a nod. They work side by side as the city awakens. Sweat, dirt, sun, his new trinity. Each strike of the hammer drives out another ghost of his past. Each breath, a promise to himself. Never again will he trade excuses for effort. By week's end, Elias has earned more than a paycheck. He's earned back himself. He returns home each night, bruised, aching, but alive. The apartment feels warmer now, filled with laughter instead of excuses. One evening, Ruth visits, watching quietly from the doorway as Elias and his son eat dinner together. No words are needed. She sees it in his eyes. The storm has passed. When she leaves, she whispers, "Now you know what faith looks like." He nods, gratitude and humility mixing in his chest. For the first time, his reflection no longer feels like a stranger. It feels like redemption wearing skin. Weeks turn into rhythm. Wake, work, return, rest. The ache becomes part of him, and the silence turns into focus. But one evening, as he walks home, he sees a group of old friends standing near the corner store, laughing, drinking, talking about dreams they'll never chase. They call his name, inviting him over. For a moment, he hesitates. The pull of the familiar is strong. No effort, no risk, no failure. Just the comfort of blame and talk. His son's voice echoes in his memory. "Did you work hard today?" He breathes deep and steps back. Change isn't loud. It's a quiet decision to walk away from who you used to be. The laughter fades behind him as he disappears into the glow of the setting sun, choosing growth over comfort. The next morning, rain pours hard and relentless. At the site, most workers take the day off. But Elias shows up anyway. Mud clings to his boots. Rainwater drips from his eyelashes. Mason's already there, hammering through the storm. No words, just work. The rain becomes their baptism, washing away excuses, pride, fear. Every drop feels like a question. How bad do you want it? And every swing of the hammer becomes an answer. By noon, the storm hasn't broken them. It's forged them. For the first time, Elias doesn't feel small against the world. He feels unstoppable within it. Later that evening, Ruth visits again. She watches Elias clean his boots by the door, every motion deliberate, grounded. "You've changed," she says. He shakes his head. "No, I finally stopped lying." Her eyes soften. pride glistening in their quiet corners. That's where real change begins. She hands him an envelope. Another letter, this one written in her trembling hand. "For when you're ready," she says. He hesitates, then tucks it into his pocket. The truth is, he already knows what it says. Some words don't need to be read. They're already lived. Days later, Elias is offered a promotion. A small one, but earned through sweat and silence. That night, he sits with his son, telling him what it means to build something from nothing. "You don't wait for the right time," he says quietly. "You make the time right." The boy listens, wide-eyed, absorbing each word like gospel. Elias realizes he's not just rebuilding a life, he's building a legacy. The kind that's not measured by money or comfort, but by example. Tomorrow will bring more struggle, but for the first time, he welcomes it. Because purpose doesn't come when life gets easy. It comes when you stop running from the hard. That night, when the city sleeps, Elias finally opens Ruth's letter. Inside, a single line written in shaky handwriting. The man who makes no excuses becomes the man God can use. He folds the paper, tears tracing silent gratitude down his face. He looks toward his son, asleep, and feels something divine stir within him. Not pride, not relief, but peace. For years, he asked the world for a break. Now he knows. The break he needed was the moment he decided to stop breaking himself. Outside, the storm clears, and dawn's first light slips through the blinds, whispering promise. He smiles. No longer afraid of tomorrow. Tomorrow belongs to those who show up. Mornings come earlier now. He wakes before the sun, before the noise, before doubt can find him. Each day begins the same. Boots laced tight, coffee black, prayer whispered under his breath. The world outside is still dark, but inside, light grows steady. He no longer asks for motivation. He moves from conviction. Every swing of the hammer, every drop of sweat, every ache in his back, each one becomes a thank you for another chance. People notice. Some ask how he keeps going, and he simply says, "Because I stopped stopping." The climb is long, steep, and lonely. But for the first time, he understands. Purpose doesn't carry you up the mountain. Effort does. Weeks turn to months. The building begins to rise, brick by brick, beam by beam. What once looked impossible now grows under his hands. Each day, he learns something new. Not about construction, but about himself. He learns that strength isn't loud. It's silent persistence. That success doesn't announce itself. It whispers through consistency. When doubt comes, he remembers the mirror, the letter, the rain. He keeps showing up. Every setback now feels like training, every failure like fuel. The climb doesn't get easier. He just gets stronger. And somewhere between exhaustion and progress, he finds something worth more than success: peace. One afternoon, while resting his blistered hands, he spots a young worker sitting alone, frustrated, muttering about how nothing ever changes. The words sting, echoes of his old voice. He sits beside the boy, quiet for a moment. "You waiting for the world to get easier?" he asks softly. The boy looks up, confused. Elias smiles faintly. "It never does. You just get stronger." The kid nods, unsure, but something shifts in his eyes. As Elias stands to return to work, he realizes he's become what he once needed. Proof that it's possible. Sometimes the climb isn't about reaching the top. Sometimes it's about showing someone else how not to fall. The building nears completion. Every wall he helped raise stands like a memory made solid. He doesn't see it as just work anymore. It's a monument to transformation. Mason walks beside him, both silent, both proud. "You did good," Mason says at last. Elias smiles, shaking his head. "We did." They share a look of mutual respect. Two men who've been to the bottom, and decided not to stay there. In the hum of power tools and the smell of sawdust, Elias realizes something profound. The climb was never about the building. It was about rebuilding himself. And now, even if everything fell tomorrow, he'd still stand taller than he ever did before. When the final beam is set, the crew applauds, but Elias stays quiet, looking toward the horizon. His son stands nearby, waving proudly. Ruth watches from afar, tears in her eyes. Every mistake, every excuse, every dark night led to this moment. Not a grand ending, but a quiet arrival. The mountain he climbed wasn't made of stone. It was made of self-doubt. And now, standing at its peak, he understands the truth. Strength isn't given. It's forged. Faith isn't felt. It's built. He kneels, pressing his hand against the foundation, whispering gratitude into the dust. The climb may be over, but the ascent has just begun. Years pass. The city changes, and so does he. The once worn streets that carried his excuses now echo with footsteps of purpose. He walks his son to school each morning, their conversations filled with laughter, not longing. The scars on his hands remain, but now they tell stories of survival, not struggle. Every face he passes reminds him how easy it is to settle, and how sacred it is not to. One morning, as they stop at a corner, his son looks up and says, "You work hard every day, Dad." Elias smiles softly. "That's the point, son. We don't work because life's easy. We work because it matters." And in that moment, he realizes the climb wasn't about reaching the top. It was about becoming someone who never quits the climb. Later that week, he visits Ruth. Time has etched deeper lines on her face, but her eyes still carry the same steady fire. She sits in her small kitchen, sipping tea, smiling as he tells her about work, about his son, about how life finally feels like it's going somewhere. She nods quietly, letting him speak. When he thanks her for never giving up on him, she simply replies, "I didn't. God didn't." The room falls silent. The weight of those words settles in his chest. Truth, grace, and accountability in perfect balance. When he leaves, she hugs him tight, whispering, "Now it's your turn to help someone else." He nods, the circle complete. Months later, Elias stands in front of a group of young men at the same community center where his excuses once lived. The mirror still hangs on the wall, cracked but shining. He tells them about the man he used to be, not with shame but with reverence. "I used to think life owed me something," he says. "Now, I know it was waiting for me to show up." The room is silent, every eye fixed on him. He holds up his hands, calloused and scarred. "These used to be proof I was broken. Now they're proof I healed." For a moment, the silence becomes sacred. Some stories don't just inspire. They awaken something buried deep within every listener. The courage to begin again. After the meeting, Elias walks alone through the same streets that once held his despair. But now, every sound, the hum of traffic, the chatter of strangers, the whistle of wind, feels like music. He passes the old corner store, the broken steps, the rusted bridge. None of it has changed. Only he has. The ghosts of excuses still linger in the shadows, whispering what-ifs and can'ts. But they no longer scare him. He smiles at them, a quiet nod of farewell, because he finally understands freedom isn't about escaping your past. It's about forgiving it, learning from it, and using it as fuel for the climb ahead. The next morning, sunlight pours through his window. Elias sits at the table with his son, both dressed for the day. No grand speeches, no miracles, just quiet purpose. As they head out the door, the camera lingers on the once faded walls, now painted warm, filled with drawings, photos, life. Outside, the same world waits, loud, unfair, unpredictable. But he meets it head-on, unflinching. His voice carries as if echoing across every broken dream and unfulfilled promise. The day you stop making excuses is the day you start making history. The screen fades to black. The echo remains. Because the truth doesn't need music or lights. It needs action. And his, at last, has begun.